Bitch.
Report, bitch. Yeah. What is going on, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome back to another episode of Intensive Treatment, where we talk about all things Arkham. And today we're talking about Arkham comic books, which I haven't heard too many people in the Arkham community, specifically the bigger people, talk about at all. So we're kind of going to just give our thoughts and honest opinions and tell you what we think and go through them.
Yeah, very rarely do I hear anybody mention anything from the Arkham Comic. Like, of course, you have all the games and stuff. It's a very small group of people will talk about um, Assault on Arkham, which that should be an episode for a later date.
Yes.
But yeah, nobody ever talks about the Arkham comic books, which are kind of prequels to the games. Some, they take some liberties, but we'll get into it as we go along. One thing I wanted to ask you is, did you know that Arkham Asylum had a prequel comic?
Wasn't it just one though?
Yeah, it was just one. It was a short, like, mini book that has physical versions, which is the one I have right here, and there was, like, you can download a digital version of it on, like, the PlayStation 3 store. Yeah. So yeah, it was the Road to Arkham, written by Alan Burnett, which for fans of Batman the animated series will know that name. But yeah, the story is it's just a short little prequel book. It's kind of it's weirdly like, it starts with Batman driving Joker to the asylum, and then it just talks about a whole bunch of crimes and stuff that were happening before. Like, Scarecrow shows up, and Zaz he deals with, and there's a little bit with Harley and Bane setting up the whole Titan plot. And yeah, it's a short little kind of romp, and it's not a bad read, actually. So if you can find scans of it on the internet, I'd say check it out. But
yeah. So do you want to kind of, I guess, go through Arkham City and then make our I don't remember, did Arkham Origins have any tie-in comics?
Yes, there was, and I do have it with me right here.
Okay.
Arkham City, there was a whole lot of Arkham City comics, but there was a prequel book that was between games, so it was between Arkham Asylum and Arkham City, like just in that kind of 8-month gap, like when Mayor Sharp becomes mayor, like when Quincy Sharp becomes mayor, and it's setting up kind of some plots with Joker, and has a bunch of other stuff going on with Hugo Strange, and it's just like the other book, where it's just like, it's kind of minor setups for the game. And I will say that it is a better read than the Asylum book. There's a whole lot more going on here, and it's written by Paul Dini, which he wrote Arkham Asylum and City. So it's definitely a good read for comic books.
Yeah. Now, I was thinking before we started, like, most of the talking for the Asylum, well, not Asylum, there's only one, but for the City and probably Origins is just mostly going to be Marvel, because I didn't really read those as much as I did with Arkham Knight stuff. And Arkham Knight stuff I know a bit more about. And I'll be able to chime in more on that. But what do you want to kind of start off talking about? Do you want to kind of give your thoughts on them? How do you want to?
I guess so. Like, I've read a good chunk of Arkham. I haven't read everything, and there's a few stuff that I'm missing, particularly like the Arkham Unhinged stuff, which we can talk about a little bit later. But like, the Asylum prequel book, the City prequel book, the Origins thing. With the Origins book is really weird, because it's like, it's before the game. It's like during Batman's first year, but it's like, it's a choose your own adventure story. So like, it has
it's
like a Telltale game. It kind of has like branching paths and multiple endings. It's very strange.
That's weird. I didn't even know that. That's super weird.
it's even weirder in graphic novel form, because this was like, I think this one particularly was meant as a digital title first, so it was a little more kind of organic that way. But like, you know, when you're reading it in a graphic novel, like it'll, you know, a story point will end and then it'll just cut back to, say, like a couple pages before that and have a completely different outcome. And, but the story here is not really too memorable, so I honestly wouldn't recommend the Origins book. It's just a little bit too strange and not really worth anyone's time, honestly. But um, but yeah, City book is good, and the Night books. I know you'll definitely have some stuff to chime in here. I think these are pretty interesting, honestly.
They are very interesting. The one I always found really interesting was the one, I believe it might have been the first book or the second book. I have it in my comic box, but it's where Arkham Knight, I believe, if I remember, he kills Ratcatcher. And am I correct? He does kill him, right?
There's a couple villains that like he kills throughout. Like he does kill Ratcatcher. There's a new Electrocutioner, which is in the very first volume, like in the first issue or something. And like he just straight up murders, like like Batman, like he shows up and he's like, "You killed like the first Electrocutioner, now I'm gonna kill you." Batman like decimates him immediately, and then Arkham Knight just shows up and shoots him in the head.
That's something I liked about the Arkham Knight comics, is that they actually kind of went like unhinged with Arkham Knight. Like has like some sort of emotional damage to where he just doesn't care whose life he takes, or to what degree. Like he just shows up, like you said, he shows up and kills people. Like that's it. There's no forethought. He'll just shoot them. And he'll kind of lead up to them dying while speaking to them. So he's just ruthless. I really like that. I think that, and if they were connected to the game's main canon, I think that it would have made Arkham Knight a bit more ruthless, I think. Because we don't see him that much in the game, apart from when we fight him.
Yeah.
And
also him bitching and whining about everything.
So. Yeah. So if we saw like another side of Arkham Knight, I think it could have even like strengthened the character. Because we already, we all know that character was misused severely, but that would have definitely helped.
One thing I like about the books than I do the game is that there's actually a mystery to who the Arkham Knight is. Like you have no idea who it is. Like there's no implications of it being Jason Todd or, any of that shit. Like it's just some random dude going around, like just murdering criminals and saying like he's gonna fucking kill Batman, and you actually believe him too. So, another thing too, and this is just kind of going through all three volumes, is that there was a lot of kind of side plots that were like, they were small but they were interesting. Like the one that sticks out to me is when the Suicide Squad shows up, and this is like it's directly continuing from Assault on Arkham.
Yeah.
So it's fun for like the fans who actually watch that movie, and
even though it doesn't make a lot of sense.
No, it doesn't. But it's still like, it's something I appreciate, right? Being a massive Arkham fan. So yeah, it's not all great though, because you get some stories in here, like there's one where he gets his ass kicked by the Calendar Man, or like they have some fight or whatever, and he gets his ass kicked, and then he's like, "Oh, I better set up the Nightfall Protocol." It's just like, really, you're gonna do that from the fucking Calendar Man. So, it's a weird book, and I mean later on they do plots like involving. Like one side plot is like Jim Gordon like campaigning for mayor, and like getting backed by Bruce Wayne and all that. But the early stuff I think is pretty interesting.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, especially the first volume where Batman is just like completely lost and Halloween's like after Joker died. But what about you? Like, what are some thoughts you have on the books?
Well, my favorite volume is volume 1.
Yeah.
It's the least weird, and it kind of, for me, gets to like the core issues of what's going on with Batman at this time. Which is, I mean, obviously the man's psychology is completely fractured since the Joker died. And Talia, for that matter. And I believe they bring Talia up in the comics, from what I remember. So you really see in the first volume, mostly to me, is his emotional damage from these two deaths of really the two most important people in his life. That at that point, and seeing Batman's mentality, especially when you read these and then play the game, is it makes you feel for Batman, and it also kind of makes you think of how the hell is Batman even going to like react to anything now, because his whole mentality has changed from these events. And that's the thing with, if they would have released the time, they didn't release them first, did they? They waited until after the game.
I think I want to say some books were released before the game. Like I want to say about like 25 issues or so, but most of the stories after that were like after the game came out, and so this went on for quite a while too.
And see, that's the thing with these books, especially for Arkham Knight, is I think what would have been awesome is if they campaigned the game and the comics as like a dual thing. Like, buy the comics and you'll understand stuff in the game, and then when you're done the game, the comics are still going to be going on. And the Arkham Knight story is going to continue, so you can keep reading, keep playing. And I think if they kept it canonical with the main game, that would have completely made it so much better. Because all that stuff, especially with the emotional weight and stuff on Batman, if you read those comics and then play the game, and like the games were self-aware and referenced the comics, that would have been even better. That's kind of my thoughts on it.
I think they should have taken a page out of what Tom Taylor was doing with Injustice, where like, it was a bit loose, but like they still had, they still acknowledged the comics as part of canon. And I think for the Arkham games, it could have gone a long way, especially with, say, Arkham Knight, where the story is a little unhinged and bad.
I think that's the only word to put it.
Like it's so weird. Like we talked about, the kind of psychology of Batman after Joker's death. The books are the only thing that really acknowledge that. Like, not even the game like delves into that much. Maybe aside from Harley Quinn's Revenge, but like, who cares? But yeah, like the Night books, especially the earlier stuff, are pretty good. The later stuff I don't really care for, honestly. But like there's a book that I don't have on me, but it pretty much talks about how, talking about Jason's kind of capture in, him being Robin, and how that kind of psychologically turns him into the Knight. It's not really like handled well. Especially after he breaks out, because apparently just Deathstroke shows up and he's like, "Okay, kid, we're gonna get the fuck out of here." And then all of a sudden he's like, "Okay, now I got this massive army of fucking drones and shit," and it just doesn't make any sense whatsoever.
No.
Yeah, but I think the best book, like out of all of them, is the Arkham City book. Like, it's been a while since I've read it, but like, there's definitely more of, say, like a connective tissue between the games, especially since Paul Dini wrote it, and like I mentioned, he wrote the first 2 games, so there's definitely more of a continuation and arc that comes off of Asylum, and you see the seeds of it in City, and it pays off for the most part.
Oh yeah, I agree. But then again, I haven't read that one fully through, and I don't own it. I kind of read it off the internet.
Yeah.
So I can't give my honest opinion on the whole thing, unfortunately.
If there's one comic series that I forgot to mention, it kind of going back to Arkham City, they did a kind of digital series called Arkham Unhinged. I don't know if you remember this at all, but it was basically just side stories that were happening within the walls of Arkham City. Like there's one where it explains how Robin got the shaved head. Like apparently he was in Penguin's fighting ring or whatever with Bane and Solomon Grundy. Like it doesn't make any sense, but like it's still a fun kind of detail. It is weird because a lot of the stories are not really they don't really fit in canon. So, and it's kind of hard to tell which stories do matter and which ones don't, because they're all spread across multiple issues and stuff. So strange thing, but
I do own one of the Arkham Unhinged books, so yes, I vaguely remember it.
I haven't read much of it myself. I do plan on doing that one day, but my first exposure to that was Arkham City Lockdown, the mobile game. They had they had in the extras, there were a couple issues you can read, and it's not a bad story, but nothing really too noteworthy. But interesting piece of trivia when it comes to the Arkham universe. I don't really have much else to say on the books. If you have anything you want to chime in.
No, not really. There's not much I can chime in on either.
Yeah.
But other than I really enjoy Volume 1 of Arkham Knight's comics, but that's it.
Yeah. Volume 1's good. The only issue for me is the art. The art's a little disjointed.
I can see that.
It's trying to be kind of like Greg Capullo art, since they were doing Batman, the main title at the time. So it looks kind of like it, but it looks a little off, and it's a bit distracting, but it's nothing that'll completely ruin the book. But and the art, it kind of gets better throughout, because they have multiple artists doing multiple stories. But yeah, that first volume though it is a bit distracting, but it's nothing I'll lose sleep over. The Arkham City book, the prequel book, the guy who drew this and the Asylum comic, he did a fucking fantastic job. I love his artwork, and I wish they could have kept him on for every Arkham comic. Get a little synergy between them, but I mean, what can you do, right?
Right.
So I don't really have much else to say. So should we just end the video?
Today's podcast was brought to you by Allstate. We hope so guys, that's going to be it for today. I hope you enjoyed this podcast episode. There will be more to come, and I hope you enjoyed the previous podcast episode. And if you did enjoy, be sure to hit that like button, comment, give us your thoughts on the Arkham comics, and follow both of us on Twitter and subscribe to our channels. I will link all of that in the description below. And we do hope you have a great rest of your week. We love you guys. Stay crazy and nutty, as Marvel always says, and stay locked up. And we will see you guys in the next one.
Take care, everyone.